As the old saying goes, you can't keep a bad man down, and Michael Myers has been resuscitated, rebooted, and resurrected so many times, he probably deserves an honorary Oscar at this point. But the latest iteration of Myers, which came in 2018, courtesy of David Gordon and Blumhouse, positions itself as the true follow-up to the 1978 classic. But, as you know, we already had a true follow-up. 1998's Halloween H20. Both films star Jamie Lee Curtis as the ultimate final girl, Laurie Strode. Both saw Myers coming after her and her offspring, and both had plenty of Halloween night stabbings and slayings. But there are plenty of differences between the films too, and we're gonna take a good, hard look at them in this epic Face Off. Well, let's start with the look and feel of both films. Obviously, both take place on October 31st and emit a Halloween vibe, although one is clearly superior in this department. Halloween H20 predominantly takes place at a private school in California where Laurie, using a new identity, teaches literature. It's an adequately shot film, but the small town setting that made the earlier Halloween films is sorely missed. This school is just not a very interesting location. Meanwhile, Green's film takes place in good old Haddonfield, the town where Michael Myers took out a few promiscuous teens all those years ago. Green's film oozes Halloween atmosphere, giving off a chilly autumn vibe that is very much in line with the look and feel of the season. Both films depict Laurie Strode as a traumatized, hard-drinking survivor, a woman whose PTSD essentially controls her life. In H20, Laurie is just barely keeping it together, working hard as a teacher and a mother to a son who isn't always compliant. Aside from her son, the people around Laurie aren't aware of her frightening past, and for the most part, she projects an air of normalcy. That is, until brother Michael shows up to ruin the party, forcing Laurie to bring out her inner badass. In the 2018 Halloween, Laurie isn't fooling anyone. Living in a compound, she's basically a survivalist who is prepping, even hoping for Michael Myers to return so she can punish him for ruining her life. She barely maintains a relationship with her daughter and granddaughter and does not have a good man in her life the way H20 Laurie does. When Michael, who remember is not her brother this time around, does indeed come calling, Laurie is more than prepared to handle him. Both visions of Laurie are well crafted, mostly thanks to Curtis's excellent performances, but the 2018 version is a more challenging and even believable depiction of what Laurie Strode would be like years after her friends were massacred. H20 and Halloween 2018 show us that despite her many problems, Laurie was at one point able to relax long enough to conceive a child. In H20, that child is John, portrayed by Josh Hartnett. With his distractingly messy hair and ill-fitting attire, John is an understanding young man who wants to help his mother get over her trauma, but he's also a growing boy who has growing boy feelings, which means a rebellious streak is strong within him. John's not a bad guy, but he's ultimately not much help at all when the going gets tough, barely making an impact on the film's third act, while his mom does most of the fighting. In Green's Halloween, Laurie's daughter, Karen, played by Judy Greer, is a woman who pretty much wants nothing to do with her troubled mom. Despite being raised by a woman with a screw loose, Karen's got her life together, raising an upstanding daughter of her own named Allison. And though Karen may look like she's a normal gal without a mean bone on her body, when the showdown arrives, she's more than prepared to help destroy Michael thanks to that intense upbringing she endured as a child. John could learn a thing or two from Karen when it comes to giving Laurie a helping hand. Naturally, any good slasher film needs an ensemble of friends, family, and ultimately victims of the villain. In H20, we're mostly surrounded by students and fellow teachers at the school. Adam Arkin is a likable enough suitor for Laurie, while John's friends, including Michelle Williams' girlfriend, are adequate, if not exactly memorable characters. LL Cool J pops up every now and again to provide some comic relief, and while he might grate on some people, he does a decent job in the role of a security guard with literary aspirations. That said, no one other than Laurie really makes an impact here. In Halloween 2018, we get a bevy of supporting characters. The youngsters Allison hangs out with don't really make much of an impression. There are some intriguing folks presented to us, including a pair of podcasters who unwittingly unlock Michael's long-dormant evil, and a bizarre doctor who is fascinated by Myers' inexplicable personality. Still, as is usually the case, Laurie is the whole show here. We don't really care one way or the other about the rest of the ensemble. And oh, now we're getting to the good stuff. It wouldn't be Halloween if Michael wasn't brutally taking out helpless individuals. Although it should be pretty clear which film will win this face-off. H20 is surprisingly low on the body count, with Michael only taking out 6 people. Oddly, we don't even see him kill a couple of them. Although, who could forget the sight of Joseph Gordon-Levitt rocking an ice skate in his face? Adam Arkin's death is probably the most memorable, if only because we kind of like the guy, and his murder is a direct callback to the nurse being skewered in Halloween 2. Sadly, H20 falls pretty flat when it comes to the slicing and dicing. David Gordon Green, however, definitely gave the fans what they wanted from a Michael Myers killing spree. Is this starting to sound a tad morbid?
Totally.
With Michael racking up 18 murders during his Halloween night out, the more memorable deaths include a poor kid who happens upon Michael's bus accident, a dork getting impaled on a spiky gate, and that unethical doctor getting his head stomped on. Michael is a true force of nature in this one, showing no pity as he chops his way towards Laurie. 2018 Halloween wins this round, no contest. But it isn't all about hackings and slashings. Well, not always anyway. The original Halloween is a classic because of its suspense, not its bloodshed. So let's take a look at how much visceral horror these two follow-ups conjure up. H20 was directed by Steve Miner, whose horror background at the time included helming 2 Friday the 13th sequels, House and Warlock. Miner actually does a pretty nice job generating suspense in H20 with a handful of memorable slow burn moments that could put you on the edge of your seat. For example, Charlie's hand down the drain, Michael walking toward Laurie before disappearing, Michael in the bathroom with the mother and daughter. While Green's film certainly delivers on the bloodshed, it's never exactly scary. There are a couple of creepy sequences, the motion sensor light in the backyard, the aftermath of the bus crash. Throughout, and for a horror newbie, Green knows how to pull off a decent jump scare, Michael jumping out at Laurie. But this film is more concerned with nasty kills than legitimate terror. For a guy who has the same overall look for the better part of the series, we're not counting you, Hobo Myers, Michael has had some subtle changes throughout the Halloween movies, mostly in the iconic mask. His personality pretty much remains the same. The guy is an emotionless killing machine, and that's about it. But the hardcore fans know the changes the Shape has gone through over the years. In H20, we get a pretty run-of-the-mill version of Myers. He doesn't do anything that's incredibly impressive or interesting aside from the occasional murder. The mask isn't one of the better ones either, and that hair could definitely use a combing. Boy, this movie has some really bad hair. At the end of the day, this is not Michael Myers at his best. Green's decision to give us glimpses of old man Michael during his Halloween might have been controversial to some, but at least it's novel and harkens back to the original film's idea that he's just a man. A really, really evil man, as opposed to almost supernatural being he became over the course of the series. Halloween 2018 also gives us an appropriately worn-out version of the mask, as it's weathered and aged as Michael himself. Of course, being a senior citizen doesn't impede Michael when it comes to tearing up innocent bystanders. The guy isn't ready for the old age home just yet. This is a fearsome depiction of the ultimate evil, and it wins this round handily. Both films lead up to appropriately apocalyptic showdowns between Laurie and Michael. In both, Laurie is no longer the frightened, whimpering girl she was in the original film. She's more than ready to take the revenge against the man who ruined her life. It really felt like an event when Laurie and Michael went to battle in H20, with at least two now iconic moments giving their face-off serious heft. For example, when Laurie screams Michael and the two of them are separated by the door, it's a prolonged and entertaining finale that's easily the highlight of the entire movie. The final sequence is just as memorable, with Laurie decapitating her brother like the badass she is. Too bad the terrible follow-up revealed that it wasn't Michael at all, but a helpless paramedic. Oops.
What'd you do?
The finale in Green's film isn't quite as epic, though it does feature its share of compelling moments. Chief among them is the reveal that Karen isn't a standard screaming victim, but a chip off the old block, proving she's just as capable of combat as her mom. Watching Michael trapped and about to be incinerated is a fittingly grim ending for a movie that is definitely darker than most of the other films in the series, but it's not quite the highlight of the film. Plus, we certainly know he's gonna come back for more. So, after all that, we have to ask the most important question. Which is the better follow-up to the classic John Carpenter film? While both films share plenty of similarities, they're quite different enough to stand on their own. The biggest difference story-wise was, of course, that H20 takes place in a world where Halloween 2 happened, hence retaining the subplot that Laurie and Michael are brother and sister. For many Halloween fans, that's canon, even if the relationship was somewhat shoehorned into Halloween 2 by Carpenter, who later admitted he regretted it. Taken as a sequel to Halloween's 1 and 2, it's an okay entry, but the lack of true Halloween atmosphere and memorable murders definitely takes the film down a few notches. Curtis makes it worthwhile, and we're treated to a fully engaging finale, but overall the film is a middling entry in the franchise. On the other hand, David Gordon Green's Halloween is a properly moody follow-up to the 1978 film, maintaining much of the chilly atmosphere and delivering us the amount of nasty kills we've come to expect from these flicks. And while some people might not dig the fact that Laurie was so traumatized by the events of the first film alone, Curtis gives a fierce and fiery performance that hooks us from the start. While it may not be the masterpiece that the original is, Green's sequel is high up there in the series in terms of filmmaking and entertainment value. And the winner of this matchup is Halloween 2018. David Gordon Green's Michael pretty much carves up H20's, and while that film has its attributes, it's just no match for the ferocity of the 2018 version. What do you think? Did we get this one right? Weigh in with your thoughts in the comments section below. And until next time, happy Halloween.